The diner smelled of fresh coffee and warm bread, the kind of scent that made strangers feel at home. It was late evening, the usual hum of conversation low and comforting, when Olivia wiped down the counter with practiced ease. She was just another face in the city, a young waitress working double shifts to pay her bills, with a smile that never quite reached her tired eyes. She didn't know that among the customers sitting in the far corner was Daniel Warren, a billionaire known more for his ruthless business moves than his kindness. Dressed in a simple jacket and cap, he blended in, unnoticed by everyone, quietly observing life outside his world of wealth and glass towers. Olivia moved with a calm rhythm, chatting softly with an elderly couple about their grandkids, laughing gently with a teenager who had spilled soda all over the table. Daniel watched her with quiet curiosity. There was something different about her, the way she carried herself, a quiet strength beneath exhaustion. But then the door swung open and everything changed. 3 men walked in, their faces hidden beneath dark hoodies, their movements sharp and unsettling. The chatter in the diner stopped cold. A tense silence took over as one of them pulled out something metallic from his pocket, his voice cutting through the air like a knife. "Nobody move. Now." Daniel's eyes locked on Olivia. Most people froze, but she didn't. She glanced briefly at the frightened faces around her, then at the men, her expression steady, almost unnervingly calm. She didn't scream. She didn't panic. She simply straightened up, took a slow breath and said, "Take what you want. Just don't hurt anyone." Her voice was soft but firm, like she was somehow in control of a situation spiraling out of control. Daniel felt his pulse hammering in his ears. He had seen boardrooms crumble under less pressure, seen executives lose their composure over minor setbacks, but this young woman standing in a small diner with danger just inches away, she didn't flinch. She kept her eyes on the men, reading their body language, keeping the customers calm with nothing but her presence. The robbers swept the cash from the register, muttering curses under their breath. One of them got impatient, slamming a fist on the counter, demanding more. The room tensed like a held breath. Olivia didn't back away. "That's all there is," she said, meeting his gaze. "Take it and go." And for reasons Daniel couldn't understand, they listened. Within seconds, the door banged shut behind them, leaving behind only the heavy silence of relief. Daniel sat frozen in his seat, watching Olivia comfort a crying child, her hands steady as if nothing had happened. He knew in that instant his life was about to take a turn he never saw coming. What he did next, and how it would change her life forever, would soon be seen by millions. Daniel stayed seated as the customers slowly found their voices again, whispering to each other in shaky tones. The elderly couple she'd been talking to moments ago clutched her hand, thanking her through tears. Olivia just smiled softly, saying, "It's over now. You're safe." As if those simple words could stitch back the fear that had just ripped through the room. Daniel couldn't look away. He had seen courage before, but this wasn't the loud, reckless kind people often showed off. This was quiet, deliberate, the kind that came from somewhere deeper. He watched her tuck a strand of hair behind her ear, wipe her palms on her apron, and get back to work as though nothing had happened. No drama. No breakdown. Just strength. The police arrived minutes later, sirens flashing outside the diner's big glass windows. Officers took statements, asking everyone to stay a little longer. Olivia cooperated, giving clear, precise details, her voice never wavering. Daniel noticed how she never once mentioned herself, only the safety of the customers. When his turn came, Daniel gave a simple account, careful not to reveal who he was. He was used to being recognized, on magazine covers, in boardrooms, across news headlines, but here in this tiny diner no one knew him. And for the first time in a long while he liked that. As the officers wrapped up, Daniel lingered, pretending to sip his coffee. He wanted to know more about her. Who was this woman who stayed calm under pressure that would have broken most people? He caught bits of conversation between her and a fellow waitress, a cheerful older woman with kind eyes. "You okay, Liv?" the woman asked gently. "I'm fine, Maggie," Olivia replied, though her voice carried a quiet exhaustion. "Just glad no one got hurt. That's all that matters." Maggie gave her a knowing look, one that seemed to say she didn't entirely believe her, but let it go. Daniel's curiosity deepened. He had built empires by reading people, spotting strengths and weaknesses others overlooked. And here he saw something rare, someone who didn't crumble, didn't complain, and didn't need recognition. That intrigued him more than he cared to admit. Outside, the night air was cool, the city lights reflecting off wet pavement from a passing rain. Daniel stood by his sleek black car, his driver waiting silently. But he didn't get in. Instead, he watched through the diner window as Olivia cleaned up, humming quietly to herself, like she hadn't just stared down danger minutes ago. He felt something stir in him, a question, maybe even a challenge. What kind of life shaped someone like her? And why did he, a man who had everything, suddenly feel like he was missing something? He didn't have the answer yet. But he knew one thing. This wasn't the last time he would see her. Daniel didn't sleep much that night. He sat in his penthouse overlooking the city, the skyline glittering like a promise that never quite delivered. He had everything: wealth, influence, power, but none of it quieted the image of Olivia's steady eyes in that diner. He kept thinking about how she didn't falter, how she put strangers before herself. It wasn't just bravery. It was something more. Something he couldn't name. By morning, he had his assistant dig into the diner. He told himself it was just curiosity, nothing more. But when the report came back, he found himself reading every line twice. Olivia Carter, 26 years old. Lives in a modest apartment in the old part of town. Works double shifts 6 days a week. No debts on paper but late rent notices. Guardianship of a younger brother, 16. Parents deceased. Daniel leaned back in his chair, fingers tapping the desk. She was carrying more than anyone should have to, and yet she'd faced down danger without blinking. Meanwhile, Olivia's day began like any other, except it wasn't. Her phone buzzed with messages from worried friends who had seen the news. She answered politely, assuring them she was fine, but inside she felt the weight of what had happened. She hadn't slept either. The moment those men pulled the weapon, she'd been afraid, terrified even, but she couldn't let anyone see that. Not with a room full of people depending on her. At home, her brother Jake noticed the shadows under her eyes. "You're not okay," he said quietly, pushing aside his cereal bowl. "You just act like you are." Olivia smiled faintly, ruffling his hair. "We're okay, Jake. That's what matters." She didn't tell him about the eviction notice tucked in her bag, or the second job she was considering just to keep them afloat. He'd been through enough. That evening, Daniel showed up at the diner again, this time deliberately. He took the same corner seat, observing her. She didn't notice him at first, too busy handling the dinner rush with her usual quiet efficiency. But when their eyes finally met, something unspoken passed between them, a flicker of recognition, curiosity on his side, guarded politeness on hers. He almost introduced himself then, but something stopped him. Maybe it was the way she looked at him, like he was just another customer. No deference, no expectation. It was grounding. Outside, in a car parked across the street, someone else was watching too. One of the men from the robbery. His jaw tightened as he saw her laughing with a regular customer, like nothing had happened. He pulled out his phone and made a call. "She's the one who looked me in the eye. We can't leave it like that." Inside, Olivia glanced at the window, a sudden chill running through her, though she didn't know why. And Daniel, unaware of the danger circling closer, made a decision that would change everything. He was going to find a way to help her, whether she wanted it or not. The following week brought an uneasy rhythm. Olivia continued working as if nothing had changed, but Daniel kept returning to the diner, each time finding another reason to stay longer. He'd ask about the menu, make small talk, even leave unusually generous tips she always tried to refuse. She intrigued him, but there was something else now, an instinct he couldn't shake. He had built his life by sensing risk before others saw it, and every time he looked at her, he felt a faint hum of danger. One evening, as the dinner rush slowed, Daniel finally spoke more openly. "You didn't seem afraid that night," he said quietly when she brought his coffee. He paused, surprised. "Of course I was afraid," she replied. "But fear doesn't help anyone when others are counting on you." Her honesty caught him off guard. He wanted to ask more, to understand her life beyond these walls, but she excused herself to check on another table. He watched her go, realizing how rare it was to meet someone so real in a world full of facades. Across town, in a dimly lit room, the man from the robbery, Marcus, stood over a table scattered with photos. Olivia's face stared back at him from multiple angles, taken in secret outside the diner. "She saw too much," he muttered. "And now some rich guy keeps showing up. We end this before it becomes a problem." His associate hesitated. "It's risky." Marcus slammed a fist down. "No loose ends." Back at the diner, Olivia locked up alone that night. Maggie had left early, and the quiet felt heavier than usual. As she stepped into the dark alley leading to the main street, a shadow moved near the dumpster. She froze, keys clutched tight in her hand. "Who's there?" she called, her voice steady despite the fear creeping up her spine. No answer. Only the sound of footsteps retreating into the night. The next morning, Daniel arrived at the diner before opening, surprising Olivia as she approached. "You shouldn't walk home alone," he said, his tone firmer than he intended. She gave him a wary look. "I've been doing it for years. I'll be fine." But she wasn't fine. She didn't tell him about the alley, just as she hadn't told anyone. She couldn't afford to seem weak. Not to him, not to anyone. Later that day, Daniel made a call from his office. "I want a security team near that diner." Quietly. "No one knows." That night, as Olivia closed up again, headlights flared at the end of the street. A van idled there, engine humming. She glanced over her shoulder, sensing she wasn't alone. From across the street, an unmarked car watched as well. Daniel's hired protection. The tension in the air felt like a held breath, ready to snap. Inside the van, Marcus checked his watch. "She walks out in 5 minutes. We grab her fast. No mistakes." And at that exact moment, Daniel, still in his office high above the city, felt a sudden, inexplicable urge to call her. Olivia stepped outside, the cool night air brushing against her skin as she locked the diner door. Her bag was slung over her shoulder, keys still in hand. She hesitated for just a second, scanning the quiet street. Something felt off again. She couldn't see anyone, but her instincts whispered otherwise. She quickened her pace toward the main road, her footsteps echoing softly against the pavement. Inside the van, Marcus leaned forward. "Now," he ordered. The side door slid open silently, 2 men ready to move. Across the street, Daniel's security team noticed the movement. "Possible hostile," one of them muttered into his calm, "Stand by." They were seconds from intervening when a black SUV suddenly pulled up behind the van. Its tinted windows rolled down just enough for a man inside to flash a badge. "Federal." "Change of plan," the man in the SUV said to the stunned security team. "This is our operation now. Stay out of it." And before they could respond, the SUV pulled away, trailing the van as it began to follow Olivia. Back in his office, Daniel dialed her number. It rang twice before she answered. "Hello." Her voice was calm but slightly breathless. "It's me," Daniel said. "Are you home?" "Not yet," she replied, glancing over her shoulder. "Why?" Something in her tone made his stomach twist. "Get to a crowded place. Now." She didn't ask how he knew. She just trusted the urgency in his voice. She turned down a side street toward a late-night convenience store. The van followed. Inside the van, Marcus frowned as the SUV stayed close behind. "Who are they?" he hissed. His partner shook his head. This wasn't supposed to be complicated. Then, just as Olivia reached the store's door, A black sedan screeched around the corner and blocked the van's path. Men in suits jumped out, weapons drawn, not at Olivia but at the van. The SUV returned, lights flashing briefly, signaling the sedan's team. Chaos erupted as Marcus's crew tried to flee, tires squealing as the van shot backward down the street. From inside the store, Olivia watched the scene unfold, her heart pounding. She had no idea what was happening or why she was suddenly at the center of it. She ducked behind a shelf, trembling despite herself. Daniel's phone buzzed. A new message from an unknown number appeared. "Stay out of this, Warren. She isn't who you think she is." He stared at the message, cold realization washing over him. This wasn't just about a robbery anymore. Someone powerful was involved, and Olivia was connected to something far bigger than either of them had imagined. And as she stepped out of the store minutes later, escorted by the mysterious agents who refused to answer her questions, she locked eyes with a man in the crowd watching her. The same man from the diner robbery. He smiled faintly before disappearing into the night. Daniel didn't hesitate. He left his office, barking orders into his phone as his driver sped toward the diner district. The warning text echoed in his mind. She isn't who you think she is. He didn't care. Whatever Olivia's past held, she didn't deserve to be hunted like this. Meanwhile, Olivia sat in the back of the black SUV that had intercepted the van. 2 agents flanked her, stone-faced and silent. "Where are you taking me?" she asked, her voice steady despite her racing heart. No answer. Only the hum of the engine. She glanced at the tinted windows, her reflection pale against the darkness. She had spent years burying her past, and now it was clawing its way back. The SUV turned down an industrial road, deserted and dimly lit. That's when Daniel's car came out of nowhere, cutting across the SUV's path, forcing it to a screeching halt. He jumped out before his driver could stop him, slamming his hand on the hood. "She's not going anywhere," he shouted. The agent stepped out, weapons half drawn. "Mr. Warren, this is federal business," one of them snapped. "She's not a criminal," Daniel shot back. "Tell me what this is about." Before anyone could answer, the roar of an engine shattered the tension. The van from earlier barreled down the road, headlights blinding. Marcus leaned out the window, firing warning shots into the air. "She's coming with us." Chaos erupted. The agents returned fire. Daniel dragged Olivia behind cover, and Marcus's crew stormed forward. Olivia's pulse thundered as memories flooded back. Her father's death, the secret she had guarded for years. Her father had been a whistleblower inside a powerful corporation, exposing corruption tied to government contracts. He had been killed for it. And she, just a teenager then, had vanished into anonymity. Till now. "They think you have something," Daniel said over the gunfire. She nodded, clutching the locket around her neck. "My father's files. They've been after them for years. I never opened it. I didn't want this life." Marcus's men closed in, but Olivia surprised everyone. She stood, stepping into the open. "You want it? Fine." She ripped open the locket, pulling out a tiny microchip no one knew was there. "It ends tonight." The agents froze, recognizing the symbol on the chip. Marcus lunged for her, but Daniel tackled him mid-stride. The fight was brief and brutal, ending with Marcus restrained and the microchip in federal custody. Sirens filled the air as reinforcements arrived. As the dust settled, Olivia leaned against Daniel's car, trembling with relief. "It's over," she whispered. Daniel looked at her, a faint smile breaking through. "No, it's just beginning. Now the world will know the truth." But as they drove away under the flashing lights, a shadow watched from a rooftop, speaking softly into a phone. "They think they've won. They have no idea what's coming." The days that followed felt surreal to Olivia. The small diner where everything had started reopened, busier than ever, though she no longer felt like just the quiet waitress in the corner. The news had exploded with the story. how a young woman's courage during a robbery had uncovered a powerful secret long buried. Reporters called her a hero, but she didn't feel like one. She still went to work, still took care of her brother, and still tried to live simply. What had changed wasn't her life. It was how others saw it. Daniel stopped by the diner one morning, this time without the cap, no longer hiding who he was. Customers whispered as he walked in, recognizing the billionaire whose name had been all over the headlines alongside hers. But when he reached her table, he didn't speak like a powerful man addressing someone in debt to him. He spoke softly like a friend. "Are you ready to talk about what's next?" Olivia looked at him, then out the window at the city waking up. "I don't know what's next," she admitted. "But I know I'm done hiding." He nodded, understanding. The microchip she had handed over had already sparked investigations, exposing corruption that reached places she had once thought untouchable. There were still risks ahead, but for the first time in years she felt lighter. Her father's fight wasn't unfinished anymore. Later that day she walked home with Jake, who grinned up at her. "Everyone at school says my sister's famous," he said proudly. She laughed, ruffling his hair. "Fame doesn't matter, Jake. Doing the right thing does." That night, Daniel called her from his office. "I have an idea," he said. "A foundation in your father's name, to protect whistleblowers, people who risk everything for the truth. I'll fund it, but it should be yours to lead." She hesitated, overwhelmed by the offer, but then thought of everything they'd been through. The diner, the alley, the fear, and the moment she finally stopped running. "Yes," she said simply. "Let's do it." Weeks later, at the quiet ceremony launching the foundation, Olivia stood at the podium, speaking not as the waitress who once stayed calm during a robbery, but as a woman who had found her voice. Daniel watched from the front row, proud but distant enough to let her shine. When it was over, she looked out at the small crowd and smiled. Sometimes the smallest moments can change everything. One choice, one act of courage. It can ripple farther than you'll ever know. As she stepped down from the stage, the sun breaking through the clouds outside, Olivia felt something she hadn't in a long time: peace. The world would always have shadows, but now she knew she could face them. And somewhere in the distance, in that diner where it all began, life went on, coffee brewing, laughter rising, and a story of quiet strength that would never be forgotten.